Okay, this is a standard, Linux Foundation distributed trust meeting, no antitrusting, and be a good person. And I hand the floor over to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I think Enrique let me know he wasn't able to make it for this meeting. And I guess, yeah, others may join. We'll see. I did give a quick recap on some of the progress on the last LFDT call, but um, I guess to recap some of the stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago. We had a bit of a think about or a chat about the difference between the aim for consistency and things like the existing guidelines. Um, Partly just to make sure we weren't redoing or rehashing stuff that's already been considered elsewhere in the governing documents. And then we talked a bit about the fact that in order to understand what kind of useful and good consistency looks like, it's useful to maybe consider like the who is it for side of things. And so what I did is I took some of the suggested areas that I had kind of jotted down a few weeks back, and I've rejigged them under particular stakeholders because I thought that was a useful way of trying to understand who this is for and also try to understand what is useful for each of those stakeholders. And this is it's certainly not a complete list, but this was my kind of thoughts around what's useful from each of these stakeholders' point of view. So there's the LFT themselves, there are people who use a project, and then there are people who contribute or maintain a project.
The fourth, the either 2A, 3A, or a fourth one would be potential. So potential project users, potential maintainers and contributors.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So it's both to it's not just to help unify communications among the current people, but anyone that's looking at the project and wants to use it, or they're potentially part of the project but not yet. So I don't think it would be worth reiterating that, as I don't know if we would just rename point 2 to be current and future, current and potential project users. I'm not sure about the wording on that. I have some strong feelings, but that might go down as part of LFDT comms, though. I don't know. I don't have any strong feelings about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's certainly a valid other group of users or variant of those potential users. Yeah, I think I agree. And I think that probably falls into, in a way, I guess that might fall into project users, or I think project users is possibly the area that's most relevant from in my head, from people coming to a project and going, is this easy for me to consume and easy for me to run a hello world and easy for me to understand what it's here to do for me?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So I think I'm kind of open to what direction we want to kind of talk through some of these things. I did have one idea that I feel could be a way that a lot of this discussion could be encapsulated into something useful without failing the we've put too much onus on project maintainers kind of test. And I'm happy to just maybe talk through that as an idea, if that would be useful.
Sure. I'm here for it. I've over the last decade plus, I've seen the evolution of the project and everything to eventually where we got to. So I am interested to hear through your new set of eyes how you think we could be doing better. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. So what I might do, I just pulled up a few repos earlier when I was having a think about this. If I grab the screen, okay, you should have visibility of the Firefly repo.
Yep.
So my thinking was, as someone thinking about consistency, my thinking was, well, maybe I'll go and look at a few landing pages, because that I think feels to me like an area where consistency can have a big positive effect.
Mhm.
So I opened the Firefly one, I opened the Besu one, and I opened the Cacti one. And where I landed was a set of kind of fairly different readmes. And I think the readme for a repo is kind of a good um, indicator of how easy is it going to be for me to come in and understand this.
Mhm.
If I scroll down to the kind of top of some of these readmes, we've got quite different approaches. We've got Firefly, which has which starts with here's how to start using it, kind of a really straight in the front door.
Mhm.
Here's how to start using it, and then really straight into detail on
Uh-huh.
what's the architecture look like. Um, Besu is much more, I think, making the assumption that you know what an Ethereum client is, right?
Mhm.
And um, here are some links, and here's stuff for developers. And that's a little more vanilla and perfectly reasonable. And then Cacti, I think that's a different approach again, which is here's a slightly higher level view of what Cacti is for and what it does.
Mhm.
Um, and you get a diagram. I don't think it's quite as low level technical as perhaps the Firefly one in terms of it's not talking about how code structure.
Mhm.
Um, and what I found myself thinking was, I wonder if one outcome of the consistency work is maybe not telling projects how they should run the projects, and that they should run the projects in a very consistent way with other ones, but perhaps more that they have a very consistent approach to telling you how firstly what the project does, and secondly how to and where to find all the things that we've kind of listed out in that page. If I've got it, I think I've got it open in a tab as well. How do I find the answer to these things from each project? And perhaps so in a way I kind of was thinking about it as almost meta consistency. It's not consistency about how you track bugs or how you do CV reporting or how you communicate your roadmap, but it might be consistency about how to find all of that information out.
Yeah.
That was where my head was going as I was giving this a bit of thought. So I'd welcome your kind of feelings on playing some of that back.
I think that is a good idea, because the last thing I want to get involved in is telling projects this is the only way that you can format your README and it must have all, that's
Yeah.
completely uninteresting. But for if you go to the Firefly repo, if you scroll to the top and pick all the way to the top and pick projects and click apparently the one project. It hasn't been updated in a while.
Yeah.
So, something like this, like a link to the project, where please provide a link to the project where you have something like this. You don't have to use projects, but please use something open.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I don't think I have paid much attention. I'm just having a little look at. So we have and then what does Cacti do?
I don't know, since Peter left. Oh, well, I guess,
Yeah, they have some stuff here.
yeah, it's in progress. And something has been updated in the last 4 days, I guess.
And it's interesting that, again, there's a project here in Besu per area of work.
Mhm.
which I think is good. Yeah, okay. And so are you thinking so firstly, I guess, um,
So under the, like where it says release planning there, under communication release
yeah,
planning, uh, I might add like a point under that, which is, as an example, here is here's a link to a project for Firefly. Here's a link to a project for Besu. Here's a link, you know, make these public. Uh, you know, consider having a public release planning board so that people
yeah,
can see it. And that I think would the roadmap where to find it might be. So if you switch back to cacti, um, did they only have the one board? They do. They only have the one
they
project.
have one project. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and open that. Because I think across the top, okay, go to Besu or Firefly. Let's go to Firefly. So across the top, you have tabs for each release, right?
yeah.
So if you go all the way over there to 131 and pick that, oh, okay, there's nothing there. Uh, okay, so you might have a tab here called, v.next or something.
Yeah.
Uh, so that you have a static link that as you go in, like pick that number one or the number 21.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So is there any way to open that as a open the issue directly?
Yeah, I think if I do that.
Yeah. So this shows up in the project as this on the right. You see where it has the status and it has the milestone that it's assigned to,
Yeah.
right? So we could then have, the list of those milestones or something of that nature. I don't want to be too prescriptive about this.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm trying to juggle in my head is are you thinking that the consistency guidelines should say you should use a GitHub project board and you should put major issues under the correct board, or are you saying projects should have some project tracking
Yeah, right.
approach and
So,
here's where you find it?
and it has to be public
Yeah,
because we have had historically a lot of problems with companies running internal Jiras and wanting to import their internal Jira data or whatever, or they have
yeah,
private leaderboards and stuff. So uh, I'm okay with the project tracking being done externally. I mean, I'm not okay with it, but I'm not going to complain too much about it.
yeah,
As long as it's publicly available and I have to log in with anything, I think it's fine. But I
yeah.
would prefer that they use GitHub issues. I would prefer that they use GitHub projects, but I don't prefer it so much that I would be willing to be prescriptive about it.
Yeah, so if we go back to the list here, then
Mhm.
um, uh, if I go to edit, um, so I guess maybe what I'll do, I don't know how many bullets GitHub's going to let me have for now. I will do a bit of tidy up later. That doesn't work nicely at all, does it?
Well, I think if you put some text in there, it will,
Hey, okay,
yeah,
right.
because it is saw it as a new header.
So I guess I'm because I'd like to steer these meetings a little towards proposals that people can shoot down rather than general thoughts.
Okay.
Um, and so maybe I'll add a little key up the top, but for now I'm going to put things in bold that are kind of proposals.
Hmm.
Um, um,
Hmm.
there's a there's almost a this is a lot of a much more it's much more of a strong recommendation.
Mhm.
This is perhaps a slightly looser recommendation.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I would feel fine if you like, just tab that one in and, said, for example, you know,
but is it more than an example? Is it more of a recommendation than an example?
yeah, it is a recommendation.
And I think I feel like there's some kind of
Yeah.
um there's some kind of strong recommendation that whatever it is, it's linked from the repo landing page.
Mhm. And
Um,
under alternatives acceptable, I would say, comma, uh, must be publicly accessible without further authentication or something of that nature.
um, yeah, I think that's kind of reasonable. And I'm assuming that we don't have anything that refers to this in our existing is it yeah
Uh,
best
if
practices
you,
is what I was looking before.
there are, I think if you go to governing documents over there on the left, if if you open that and then repository structure, maybe um, it's required to have a README, a notice. Okay, don't care, don't care. Adopters, prohibited tooling. So there we go. So this is, issue templates. This is that type of stuff, right? So
Yeah,
this is where it I think would fall. Uh, because we used to be a lot more loose in terms of where you can, we used to have Jira and some projects did Jira and some projects did GitHub, and then we had multiple Jiras. So I really just want to, I don't want to go back to that land. Um,
yeah, yeah. And also, sorry, I'm just going to hit. Oh yeah, okay. I do have the wiki open. So um, I'm just wondering in terms of capturing kind of proposals or discussions. I'm wondering if um, we're arriving at a proposal where the consistency output is going to be updates to a number of existing governance and guideline docs rather than a new consistency document of some sort.
I think in general, yes. Um, but I think we
I mean, I
still,
think,
I think we still need like an umbrella document. What what I would like to capture and what I would like to provide, for instance, on the TAC call yesterday,
yeah,
Enrique asked some very reasonable questions about why do you run elections like that?
yeah,
And I think this could be more of an explicative document where you're saying, this is why we do it this way. And so the other documents would not have, this verbiage about why do you want, public project boards? Why do you want? Under here, we could say, uh, the TAC uh, wants a consistent a consistent way for the public to interact with the projects, right? That's the goal.
yeah.
And right now, that's not really where we are, even though we're trying. I mean, for instance, Um, we have we still have projects that primarily communicate on their internal Slack. We have entire user bases that can't use Discord, like if you're in the
Yeah.
FinOps or whatever. So it's about kind of the why.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what I've tried to do is capture that as bullet 2 here.
Yep.
And bullet 1 is really and some of the specific consistency recommendations will be dropped into some of the existing documents.
Right. This might end up with a PR that touches a ton of documents.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a useful conclusion of some sort to get to, because I had been struggling a little with, is this one big consistency MD file that is yet another list of things for project maintainers to be aware of, or is it more of a an update to existing material with some kind of some helpful pointers or some direction towards those changes? And I think where it's landing in, if we end up with this, is it feels right to me. I think it feels like the right balance of tweaking existing governance, and then giving a bit more of a reassertion as to why that's useful.
Right.
So that's I think it's really useful. You mentioned, I think you mentioned in passing that you had very little, you didn't have strong feelings at all. I'm just going to switch back to these about the readmes and the structure and the landing kind of experience. Did I understand that correctly?
Not quite. What I don't want is a repo that has like the default readme or a blank readme or something.
Absolutely.
What
Yeah.
I don't have, or what I don't want to do, is be very prescriptive about, like, you must use this format that's on our page right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's like
Okay.
the blocks of content should probably be similar, but the the presentation of the content, the order of the content, that's kind of up to the projects.
So, um, yeah, I think I'd agree. I think for me, the point I would make would be, it would be useful if the readmes did have some consistency in what I could expect to find there. So,
Yeah.
developer guidelines is a common thing that readmes will point you at. The information about what the project does, I think it's interesting if you go look at Firefly again.
Mhm.
There is some stuff here from Firefly, but it goes very quickly on to how to use it. Whereas I find the cacti one a little, I go back to there. I find the cacti one a little more helpful as landing page in terms of understanding what it is. Yeah, it starts by saying it is a ...
Right.
So I think my point here would be that having an agreed list of links, information, to I'm not sure if I even quite mean that. I'm trying to think, having a list of links, information, or references that are common across projects would be valuable. So, e.g., developer guidelines, info about project, detailed architecture, docs, etc. So I think that's the bit that for me is more about, well, if I come to a landing page, do I know that if I scroll up, I will find how to the developer guidelines, right? And if I look at Fireflies, I get some stuff here. If I look at Bessie's, I think I did, yeah. And Cacti doesn't really. It has a bunch of stuff, but none of them are really, I want to get cracking as a developer. Where do I start? And
Right.
that for me is, I think, maybe a good example here of where they've given you loads of useful information, but there is just a little consistency lacking in terms of, well, I know if I'm a potential maintainer or contributor, I know how to get myself a development stack set up locally on Mac or Windows or whatever. So that I think that's the point I'm trying to get across in terms of README consistency.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair.
Okay, I'm going to hit save before I lose some of that. So I wonder if we go back to jumping around a bit. For me, I think that's partly under. I'll do a bit of tidying up afterwards. README structure that gives me a quick. That for me, I think feels like a reasonable proposed recommendation.
Yep.
And I think you could land another one under here. And I'm not quite sure the structure I'm ending up with, but and I think for me a few other things could land there. And I'm happy to give that a bit of thought, perhaps offline of the meeting, as to things that I think might fall into those categories, and drop some more into this list offline of the call if that is useful.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So looking at other things on the list, I think one that I think I'd benefit from 5-10 minutes of discussion while we're on the call is around CVEs. I think that is an area that I don't know if there is a consistent experience across projects. Again, if I look at
Absolutely
releases,
not.
if I control F CVE in here, I get a couple of mentions of something's been fixed. I think Besu is much more comprehensive here, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think if you go to, yeah.
So if you look at the way Besu does it, individually tracked CVs, I can tell this CV is definitely not in this particular version. That's where I was coming from when I dropped CVEs onto this this list of items here, because I think it's an important area for projects to have some degree of consistency over.
I agree. If you go back to the Besu page that you were on, if you go to the top, let's see, security, the tab at the top.
There we are.
Advisories. So published. So this, this shows what's been published from Besu on GitHub. This is not a complete list of all of the CVEs, because the ones that start with GHSA are obviously GitHub, and
Yeah.
then CVE are Mitri or MITRE.
Yeah.
So
And
this,
this is obviously a very small subset, I guess.
oh yeah,
If you look at the releases, yeah, there were 3 CVEs in the last release alone, I think.
right.
Yeah.
So these exist primarily for people that we are going to be dealing with directly.
Yeah.
So people that want to submit a thing, they have a fix.
Yeah.
And so those CVEs would be addressed in a let me
And take the green?
share my screen for a second here. So if I go to okay, why am I not seeing the, oh, this is for the org. So let's just go to, so these were developed primarily based on feedback from GitHub. But if I go
Mhm.
here and I go to repositories and I pause the recording for just a second.
Yeah.
And I go for, so this is a, so when someone external to us, external to Hyperledger, I'm sorry, external to the project
Yeah.
wants to submit a bug, like this is where it's worked on uh, in private
Yeah.
between.
Okay.
So if they're going to do this type of work, then that's where it's done. I'll restart
Yeah.
the recording here. Okay. So that's that's where those GHSA issues come from. We also have ones from HackerOne, which we are discussing whether or not we are going to continue using HackerOne.
Uh-huh.
We're discussing that internally. Because we initially only did it because Fabric wanted it, and basically Fabric is really the only group that uses it, only project that really uses it.
Mhm.
But that's internal discussion. It's part of the issue is in GitHub, there's no easy way for me to provide a bounty.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to, if we want to reward someone for filing a bug, it's difficult to impossible to provide a bounty.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then if you look at the, if you look at, for instance, the amount that a bug in Bezu gets paid, it gets paid in ETH, which is thousands to tens of thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
Um, our entire budget annually for all of LFDT for bug rewards, I think, is $10,000 or $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just can't, support that.
Yeah. 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 So I'm just going to jot this something down here. Um, uh, I'm going to put, and I think there's CV resolution. There's also, I think, um, I think, I feel like that that's an area that falls under LFTT. I think these two fall under users. Like, I want to know if a CV isn't in a release, and I want to know how I can subscribe to advisories, and
Mhm.
then maintainers and contributors potentially want to report CVEs. I guess I think, yeah, yeah, it's probably the best place to put that for now. But I do think, yeah, out of these areas, in terms of, again, think about it from the point of view of consistency, um, do we think we have some reasonable proposals for things like CV resolution? I.e.,
if I'm a consumer and I care about a CVE, I don't remember how it's done, but when you do a release, you can tag it with CVEs. So
mhm,
I don't remember exactly how it's done, but you tag the release with the CVE ID, and then like stuff like Dependabot or whatever
yeah,
will pick that up and say, hey, CVE blah 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 is fixed in version .2, and you're currently on version .1. So that might be a way around listing every single CVE, or it could be a link to the list of CVEs that are resolved in a release, a dynamic list.
yeah.
I don't have strong feelings about that.
Yeah, so I feel like this part of it is quite important from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the mechanics, which is possibly this or possibly not, but if we have a little dig into it offline,
Mm-hmm.
I think is reasonable. And I think that, again, I think that feels like, to me, like a reasonably kind of valid proposal to come out of this.
Yep.
I think people reporting CVEs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you there was this looks like this is built in
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah, if
GitHub.
you
The layout here, is this based on the markdown, or is this if you've
no,
dropped a markdown in, it replaces the built-in
so
tracking?
just click on report of vulnerability and you'll see. So this is, I think if you scroll down a little bit, it has you fill out a bunch of this stuff. So this
Okay.
is, I think for the most part, this is comes from the built-in. I don't think that that's been
And this layout here, because Cacti just has a pretty vanilla. Is this because there aren't any published ones? This one says there aren't any published ones. I wonder
right.
if that's why we're not seeing any of this layout for the Cacti project, but I don't know.
Well, if you click report of vulnerability here, I think you get the same thing, right?
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
so you know what, go to Hyperledger slash fabric slash security slash fabric
Sorry.
security, and then scroll down, and there you go. So
Okay. All right. So there's a combination of the MD file
mhm.
and then the report vulnerability being built in. Okay. So I wonder if that is landing us at um with a bit of a question mark. Do we think that's a reasonable recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm there's no global shortage of goods, and you know, I'm fine with, so the I am fine with having a low severity CVE, so that you can point to this and say, yes, if you do this and do that, um, you're going to have a bad time. But
Mm.
yeah. So I'm not quite willing to say every single thing that might possibly be a security bug needs to have a CVE, but I think that verbiage is fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I mean I guess, and I'll have to drop shortly because I've got a fairly hard stop today. The in terms of these advisories are saying, I mean, there is a critical error
Mm-hmm.
issue. It's in these versions, it's fixed in this version, and there is a point in time at which it is reasonable to publish this,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because there's a fixed version. Um, I don't know if there is a good common practice for only raising advisories some time after a patch version has been out, but it may be almost the opposite. As soon as a patch version is out, the CV should be the advisory should be raised. So um,
Well, the issue is really that, so if, I don't know if you noticed, but over there on the right, at the towards the bottom, it says CVE ID. So the
yeah,
CVE ID is tied to this. I don't know if that's clickable or not. It's not. Um,
no, yeah,
the So I know for Bezu in particular, they are very much on the coordinated, careful release, because they have to get everything into production first
yeah,
and get it mitigated. Fabric is much less that. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I wouldn't want to be too prescriptive there, because that's kind of a project thing where they need to, in terms of publishing, it should be published once it's fixed, but in terms of the exact timeline.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think it's worth a bit more chat next time because I have to drop now for another call. Thank you
All
very
right.
much for the discussion. I think
Yep.
maybe this is an area to pick up on just a little bit next time.